Hello and welcome. If you're watching this video, I'm going to make a brief assumption. You recently have been put in a position to work from home, or you're a teacher that now has to reach an audience that's not sitting directly across from you. And as part of that, you are either being asked to or have decided to try to use the webcam on your computer to reach that audience in a more dynamic way. Studies have proven that having yourself on the screen along with your visuals does make your message more impactful. It makes you harder to ignore and be marginalized. And for some of you that are looking at team meetings for the first time in a virtual space, this is a reality that you may not have chosen but may have been placed upon you. Now, there are some ways that you can do this and still present yourself well. There are some challenges related to using a webcam that we're going to talk through in the course of this video. A little bit about myself. My name is Matthew. I am a former technology trainer that did a whole lot of webinars. And I also worked in our training department as an onboarding trainer, teaching others within my team how to use this as a piece of equipment that can help your message as opposed to taking away from it. For the purpose of this video, I am actually using the webcam on my computer as well as the inboard microphone. There's nothing special being done. I'm not using any special technology for this or any editing. What you're seeing is a result of the environment I've created for myself. We're going to talk about how exactly we do that. First and foremost, let's talk about framing, how you're setting up your shot, where you're positioning your camera, where you're positioning yourself within your room to try to limit distractions and limit anything that might take away from your message and what you're trying to present. If you notice, I'm actually positioned in a corner of my office. What you're seeing behind me is a corner and a very carefully set up one at that. You're not seeing anything related to the rest of the room. Most of you are probably assuming I'm in a fairly clean room based on this, but you really have no way to know that. I've also taken special care to make sure that the window in my office is only taking up a small portion of my screen. That way, if a cloud passes over, we have a bright sunny day, anything like that, that light source is not going to cause my camera to gain down or my entire background to bleed out into one giant big frame of white, which would be very difficult for the people I'm talking to look at. You'll also notice I'm not positioned in the center of the screen. For me, in the way my desk is set up, I have my laptop just right here in front of me where you're all talking to me from. I also have a secondary monitor, and my second monitor is much bigger than my laptop, and it's where I tend to have most of my functional documents I'm working with or any project that I'm working on. And I know that if I'm going to be talking to someone on my team, chances are I'm going to refer to that a fair amount, and my natural impulse is going to be to actually talk to my graphics, to actually talk to the project I'm working on, or to look something up. By positioning myself here, if I do need to work on something on this screen, or if I do need to refer to something, or if my gesture naturally becomes this way, I have a much better chance of staying in the frame and staying in the shot without having to move my camera around. It's less awkward than, say, if I was referring to this and I was looking over here and working through something that was happening off the screen here. You really have no way of knowing what I'm talking about. Also, I know that in meeting situations where my webcam is going to be live with a whole team of people, I tend to sit back and relax when other people are talking and I'm listening. So my posture goes from this to this. By positioning my camera where I can lean back like this. I'm still in the shot. I'm not drifting off the frame or doing any of this kind of stuff. I'm staying within the field of view so that I'm still present. I'm still part of the meeting. I'm still part of everything that's going on in the session. So that's framing. Now, there are some tricks to this. My camera is built into the monitor on my laptop. It's at the top center of my laptop, which is where most of yours are going to be as well. My laptop is now tall enough to allow this shot to actually exist without a little bit of extra prep. I'll insert a picture here so that you can see, but my laptop actually is sitting on a couple boxes. That brings the camera up to just above or at my eye line, so you're shooting kind of down at me as opposed to up. Now, natively, if I were sitting over my monitor, you're going to have a very different reaction, and I'll show you that near the end of this video, what this would look like if we did this wrong. This concept shouldn't be all that unfamiliar. If you've never been on social media, you've probably seen somebody take a selfie once or twice. And we all know that when we do that, we aren't taking our phones and taking pictures of ourselves like this. This is not a flattering angle, but this is the angle that you're presenting if you're using your screen sitting on your desktop and you're sitting over your laptop looking down at your camera. If you watch anybody taking a selfie, they tend to take it like this because this angle is much more flattering to most of us. We find this more appealing. It's the version of ourselves that we're going to show voluntarily. Doing this with your camera allows that to be the version of yourself that's being recorded or being displayed as part of your meeting. Now, also coming into that, aside from basic framing of your shot, is lighting. Your laptop monitor tends to push out a very blue light. You can actually buy glasses as a professional in the tech space to filter out blue light because of the damage it has on your eyes. This also creates damage for your image. When you're close to a blue light that's shining directly up at you, it's going to wash out your skin tone. It's going to make you look very pale. And for some of us, like me, live in Minnesota in March and haven't been out in the sun in quite some time, being more pale or looking more pale than we already naturally are isn't going to go so well for us. So what I've done in my room to try to combat that is, one, I'm sitting about 3 feet away from my laptop. I have it actually positioned so it's far enough away that other light sources can assist. I've also taken the overhead lights in my room and traded out the normal daylight level LED lights that I was running, which is a very white light, for the warmer color tone lights that you can buy. Now this is giving a slightly yellowish orange cast to the light coming down from above, which is going to make me appear much more healthy and a lot cleaner in the way that I look in my video presentation. I've also chosen what I wear very carefully. There's a, I guess, temptation when you're working from home to not worry so much about your personal appearance. Like, I can skip a shower, or I don't have to be dressed as nice. I can just, wear that ratty t-shirt and come into the meeting because who's going to know? The second you have your webcam on, everybody knows. So you want to treat any of these meetings, any of these situations, just like that person was sitting face to face with you, and do all the things you would normally do to make yourself presentable for that moment. Now, with a webcam, partially that can be from the waist up. You guys don't know if I'm wearing sweatpants or boxer shorts or anything else below the desk. No one's going to see that. So I could be in a shirt and tie and sweatpants or pajamas, and you're really not going to know. But for the part of me that I'm showing you, I want to look professional and appear professional and appear ready to go. Now, I also notice that as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. I'm actually addressing the webcam directly. This takes a little bit of training, a little bit of practice to get used to, and there's a trick that I found for newer trainers that seem to help with that. If you take a little Lego toy, or if you just take a small printout or drawn picture of a face and tape it onto your monitor directly above the camera and just get used to talking to that person. I had someone I used to work with that referred to that person as Lee Goman or Lego Man, and he had just the torso, so just the above the waist. And it was actually taped to the back of his monitor, so it looked like it was peeking over the top at him. And he referred to that person and trained directly to that person, made it much more personal and much more impactful. You're addressing your message that way and actually gesturing towards that person, thereby the audience that's watching you, as opposed to doing this, working towards your graphics or looking down at your screen or kind of wandering off in the way that you're presenting yourself. It keeps you much more focused, much more personal, much more direct in the way you're conveying your message across. So we've talked about some of the basics of this. We want to mind our background. What else is in the shot? What are we displaying? You want to have decent lighting that's going to present you in an adequate way. And then from a dress standpoint, you want to dress professionally. And to that point, just as a note, avoid anything with an aggressive pattern. Like really narrow pinstripes or checkered patterns or any of that, your camera's going to struggle with that. It gets this weird rainbow effect, which can be very difficult for the person on the other end of your session to look at. So anything you can do with a flat color, like what I'm wearing now, is going to present yourself better and be less distracting visually when you're on a screen on a laptop or projected on a wall or whatever situation your viewer may be joining you from. Now, the last piece we have to talk about then is how you're actually heard. Now, my camera and the microphone built into my laptop is actually pretty decent. That's what we're recording this with right now. That might not be the case for most of you. Depending on the system that you're using, you may not have a built-in microphone, or the microphone that you have might be a little bit awkward and tinny. So you want to make sure that you've taken the time to get the technology to allow you to be presented properly. There are standalone microphones that you can get. There's a USB one called a Snowball, so it looks like a little snowball that sits on your desk that has really, really good audio quality, but you will pay a bit for that. And there are some other kind of cheaper options you can use as well. One of them looks like this. This is just a regular Logitech gaming headset. I think these cost 20 bucks roughly. from Best Buy, Target, Walmart, that sort of thing. The advantage of a headset like this is the microphones on these are great. They tend to be noise canceling and echo canceling, so they are going to bleed out a lot of the echo you might get in a typical web conference for you without you having to worry about it. And on the cable for these headsets, there's a little control. And this control gives you both a volume up and down so that you can change how loud the headphones are. But it also has a button here in the middle that allows you to mute your microphone without worrying about the software or whatever you're using to talk to your audience. So you don't have to fumble around and be clicking on your mouse and trying to find the mute or the unmute when it comes to you. You can just push this button. Now, it does come with a little bit of a catch. My experience with using this headset has been that I tended to lean against this. The cable would get stuck and was at such a height that it would always line up with my chair. And if I wasn't careful, it might mute for me. So you have to be a little bit cautious of that if you're going to go into that environment. There are other options as well out there in the pretty cheap space. This is a little standalone microphone camera that I've used in the past, which is kind of nice because it can be positioned up above you, get the proper angle. It has a built-in microphone in it and its own speakers. So regardless of the computer you're using, you can control the environment a little bit better that way. But any modern laptop should give you a decent camera that decently senses light and color. If you do a few of the things that we've talked about here, you're going to present a better environment for it. Last tip that I'm going to give you has to do with this. Now, most of us know to mute our phones. To take this, click the little button on the top and reduce it just to vibration. If you're using your microphone built into your laptop, and if you have something like this and you have muted it, good for you. Don't put this on your desk. When these phones vibrate, they actually cause a vibration that goes into your computer, and your microphone is going to pick that up. Everybody on the other side of your webinar is going to hear wah, wah, every time this goes off. Take this, throw it in your pocket, put it on the floor. Don't put it on the desk next to your monitor. You'll have a much better experience going forward, especially in a larger meeting. No one wants to be that person whose phone is vibrating as we go through the session. So those are some simple tips and tricks. Just to reiterate, mind your background, pay attention to where your light sources are, dress appropriately, just like you were in a meeting, talk directly to the person that you're presenting to as opposed to your graphics or to your secondary screen. Work the angles of your camera, try to position the camera up a little bit, looking down, as opposed to down, looking up, and be cautious of the lighting in your room. Try to avoid that being the main light source that's shining up on you. Give yourself some yellowish light to counteract it. You're going to have a much better experience. You're going to look a lot better, which is going to allow your message to be heard and let this not be something that distracts from what you're trying to do, but instead enhances it. Oh, one other thing, I guess kind of a last tip. Since my phone was supposedly my last tip, we're just going to tack this on to the end. Any video conferencing system that you have, whether it's Skype, Webinar, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, any of those, they do audio compression. It's a way to try to get the video and audio stream to go in sync and allow you to reach people who have lower level bandwidth concerns at their site. And whenever audio compression happens, your voice is going to sound higher and more tinny than it does naturally. To counteract that, you want to make sure you're doing what you can to bring your own voice down and to relax the way that you're talking. You want to talk from the back of your throat. This voice I'm using is not my normal voice. I actually tend to train and present in a lower tone of voice to counteract what happens when a webinar gets a hold of it. From a posture standpoint, if you're doing that, what you want to get used to doing is sitting back in your chair, relaxing your shoulders, breathing deep, and again, talking from the back of your throat instead of from your nose and from your head. When you sit like this, I mean, if you can probably hear it in the video, what naturally happens is your throat gets tight, your chest gets tight, your whole posture gets tight. It's very tempting to kind of bring your elbows up and kind of bring your shoulders up. And what that does to your voice is it brings your voice up as well. Add compression on top of it, and you're going to have a not very appealing view. Plus, depending on how you're set up, you're not overly in the camera. Nobody wants a session like this. So bring yourself back, relax, appear more calm. You're going to sound more calm. Your message is going to be more impactful and is going to get through to your audience better. And it's a whole lot easier to do a session like that than it is when you're all tight and compressed. All right, that's it for me today. Stay tuned. There may be some more videos like this coming out about how to use PowerPoint to your advantage, how to set up your desktop if you're doing desktop sharing to make that a little bit cleaner and easier and limit the distractions that your users will naturally have because they're not looking at you, they're looking at just what you've given them. So stay tuned for those. Otherwise, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, enjoy this. It's a rare luxury to be able to sit in a room like this and reach a much broader audience than we could have reached 5, even 10 years ago. So enjoy it. Give yourself a break, take some time, practice. It gets easier, it gets better. Take care. See you next time.